Hello everyone and Happy New Year. Now let's get the bad stuff out of the way and start with the worst songs of 2022. Now this has been a year that I didn't really search that much for bad songs or bad albums out of this year. Like most of the stuff out of this list are just tracks that I've listened to the past month in order to just search and fill the list with worst songs out of this year. And they ended up finding a couple that I believe that you shouldn't really listen to if you haven't already. So I have 10 worst songs over here with the inclusion of 5 dishonorable mentions, and let's just jump straight into it. At first, at the honorable mentions, we have Kim Petras with Your Wish Is My Command. I was really disappointed with the brand new EP out of Kim Petras, which went into some really just of bad taste directions of like dance pop music, unnecessarily hedonistic lyrics that didn't really do all that much for the experience. And Your Wish Is My Command was a pretty cringy song in my opinion. I didn't really like it at all. Then we have Grimes with Shinigami Eyes. Thankfully it seems that Grimes is into a better path nowadays. I can't really say the same for Elon. The thing is that at this period of time in like late 21 to early 22, we got some of the roughest stuff from Grimes, especially when it comes to music. And Shinigami Eyes was a track that had such a basic instrumental that had a feeling of like a 2000s dance beat that was really basic and generic, and the vocals, like the autotune and the effects, were pretty obnoxious, I would say. Now, Grimes never really ended up making something that much original with her sound, but at least there were some good results here and there. But some of the later stuff have been really rough, and Shinigami Eyes was certainly one of my least favorite songs when it comes to the whole Grimes catalog. Next up is Don't Fix It by D.O.D. Once again, really disappointed with the new direction out of D.O.D because they've done some stuff that I've really liked in the past, but this more sort of political, enlightened, centrist bullshit that they have with their latest stuff is like really corny and cringe, and Don't Fix It in particular has such a silly instrumental. It sounds kinda goofy and I don't really like the pacing out of this song. It has some of the weakest hooks I've heard out of D.O.D, and it's a really basic formula at this point that doesn't really seem to have any development whatsoever, and yeah, I find this to be one of the worst ideas out of D.O.D. Next up is Love That Girl by Bobby Shmurda and Lou Got Cash, one of the many awful tracks out of this brand new mixtape, which had shockingly poor production and some really weak flows for the most part. Yeah, this sounds like a pretty rough and unfinished rap song that doesn't really seem to have that much of a purpose to it. It's just like really poorly done, and that's pretty much about it. And finally, at the dishonorable mentions, we have Swing and a Miss by Oliver Tree. Once again, this is another case where we got like a brand new album of Oliver Tree that was pretty rough. Like, I didn't really like the new Oliver Tree album at all. I believe that towards the second half it gets a little bit better, but some of the first songs like Swing and a Miss are just like really basic indie pop and indie rock stuff that sound really bland, I'd say even below average. And Oliver Tree's vocals have become pretty tiring at this point, so yeah, not really digging this track. Now let's get into the top 10, starting with a novelty moment over here. We have Neil Diamond's Sweet Caroline, the Diagnostics bootleg. Now this is a very special case because I can't really necessarily say that I find this track personally to be one of the absolute worst this year, but I believe that the whole reception out of this track makes it kinda funny, and I believe it ends up deserving the spot at the end of the day. So here's the thing, apparently there's this YouTube channel called Relevant Drum and Bass, and I've seen that what's the thing with this particular channel is that they basically have many artists that are sort of unknown in the scene. Like, I don't think I know about any of those artists, and they basically just take hit songs from many different genres and they put them in a drum and bass context. And that was the case with Neil Diamond's Sweet Caroline. Someone ended up thinking that this would be a good idea to make a drum and bass remix out of this song. And obviously, as you can guess, it didn't really go well at all. It actually went so poorly that Relevant Drum and Bass ended up taking the video down, and the only way you can find it is from a re-upload of another random channel which has managed getting so many views that is more popular than pretty much most of the stuff the actual Relevant Drum and Bass channel has ever put out over the years. And the comments out of these songs are bombarded with like imaginative comments on like sitting and roasting on this song. So yeah, it's a fun ride going down and watching all of those comments. Now here's the thing, I personally I like drum and bass and I like jump up, and I believe that in the context of like the beat and like the bass, the production, the overall sounds, it doesn't necessarily sound all that bad, but the thing is that I cannot think of a bigger disconnect of a sample and a drum and bass beat. Like, there is no connection over here at all. It feels so over the place. I don't know who thought of this, but it doesn't work at all. So it's more of a novelty, it's more of a track that gives me a chuckle rather than one that I believe that it's poorly done in terms of its production or its ideas when it comes to the drum and bass section. But yeah, when it comes to like the sample and the drum and bass section, there is a huge disconnect, probably one of the biggest ones that I've ever seen. So yeah, for this reason alone, I believe that it deserves its spot over here. Number 9 is Churchill Downs by Jack Harlow featuring Drake. Now, there are many poorly done songs out of the new Jack Harlow album, and some people might argue that some of the main hit singles were downright atrocious, which I actually ended up finding a bit of an enjoyment out of certain tracks over here, but I can't say that this was the case with Churchill Downs. The longest moment over here, and certainly the one with the slowest pace, and my god, this track felt so long and leading to absolutely nothing. Really boring, bland instrumental, same with the overall delivery, like there's not really that much of an effort being put over here. I don't know why this track ended up being this long, but yeah, it is a poor attempt on like a somewhat moody and dreamy pop rap song. It's not worth your time. Number 8 is Mona Lisa by Lil Pump and Soulja Boy. I didn't really know that this was a thing up until like very recently. I decided to listen to this song, and the only redeeming quality to this is that it's really short. There is not really that much going on to it, but Lil Pump and Soulja Boy prove once again why they're two of the worst rappers, especially now. They don't put any effort to anything they do. The instrumental is also really bad. The overall lyricism is like very effortless. So yeah, not really that much into this song. It simply just sucks. Number 7, I didn't really know what to pick out of the brand new Fly Soulja album, so I took the safe bet and just put the alternate version of Island Boys called Island Girls. It's a safe bet, it's a track that went really poorly the previous year, marking itself easily as one of the worst songs of the previous year. This version miraculously ends up sounding even more obnoxious and even more offbeat. I don't really know how they managed to do that, but yeah, outside of the instrumental, which I'd say it's not one of the worst things in the world, yeah, there's not really that much to this song. It's a really bland, uninteresting trap song with little to no redeeming quality to it whatsoever. At number 6 is Emo Boy featuring Willow by Machine Gun Kelly. This is a track that basically has all of the tropes that have made pop punk for me and lots of other people such an unappealing genre. This is undoubtedly one of the most bland, most basic, most standard songs I've heard all year. In terms of pop punk, it just plays it so safe, it's so non-engaging, but it still manages to be obnoxious with like really poor deliveries and just a pretty annoying instrumental. Yeah, there were lots of bad moments. out of the new Machine Gun Kelly album, and this was certainly one of them. But we actually keep up with the pop punk atrocities. At number 5 we have Fuck, Marry, Kill by Gale featuring Black Bear. This is more of the same when it comes to really safe, bland and an interesting pop punk approaches. Somehow this ended up feeling slightly more obnoxious in my opinion, but it's not like that much of a long margin. I believe that this is another one of those songs that was just so painful to listen to. Like the whole thing was just of really poor taste. I didn't really find anything engaging about it when it comes to like the vocals, the overall sound, the production, the lyricism. It was just like something that feels really standard and something that has never really managed to appeal to me whatsoever. But it doesn't end here. At number 4 we have another pop punk atrocity. It's Twinkle Twinkle Little Bitch by Lil Kate. It's really tiring seeing artists taking simple classic songs, adding a bit of a more profanity to them and thinking that they make something special. Like there's nothing special or unique or original about this idea. Like hell yeah, Twinkle Twinkle Little Bitch instead of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. How original and how much of a bold move. Yeah, apart from that, this is also like of a really bad taste song that suffers from the same elements with the previous two picks when it comes to just having a really bland, unoriginal, unengaging pop punk song that has nothing desirable or appealing to it. I just really don't like it. I don't know why this exists. I don't know why they thought that this was a good idea. Obviously, I can't get into their head. I'm not a psychic and know why they ended up feeling that this was a good idea. But yeah, I can safely say that this was one of the most obnoxious things I've heard all year. At number 3, this is definitely one of the most baffling moments for me out of this whole year. It's the track Currents by Drake. How Drake, one of the most popular artists of this generation, has managed to make something that sounds so poorly done. The instrumental is so lackluster and you have this sort of squeaky bed sound that you listen to it and you just can't help but laugh. What is with this track? The whole delivery, the pacing, thankfully it's a short track, but I believe that's simply because there is nothing to this song. It just goes on and on having the same thing. And yeah, I believe that this squeaky bed sound is certainly one of the funniest things to happen this year in terms of music. I can't believe that this is a Drake song. And I never had Drake in like high regards as a rapper and as an artist, but I really don't know what happened over here. At number 2, this was a safe bet, a really obvious one. I know that many of you who have seen my channel would expect something like this to be here. Of course I'm talking about Tom MacDonald and Adam Calhoun with the track New World Order. Now obviously I could pick many tracks out of the brand new The Brave album that those two idiots have ended up doing together, but I obviously didn't want to go back to the album again and listen to the entire thing in order to pick up the words, so I go with a safe bet and putting up their most well-known song, which was definitely one of the worst ones, I'd say. Here's the thing, as far as it's really easy to make fun of those clowns, okay? There is obviously nothing all that fun anymore about this whole formula. It's the same thing over and over again. They know what sells, they know what's making the clicks, they know what's making the money, so they make the same thing over and over again. And there is nothing original or special about this track. This is just plain textbook definition of conservatism and right-wing beliefs, ideas, ideologies. There is not even that much of an attempt on this enlightened centrist bullshit that we saw in the early days of Tom MacDonald, where he would constantly play the white boy victim. I mean, this thing is still there, but at this point it's more like standard conservative talking points. It's so predictable, and it's also the same case with the music, the flow, the instrumentals. It's just such a safe approach on like having those acoustic guitars, a really basic trap beat, which I'd say this, I don't believe that Tom MacDonald has the worst flow ever. I don't really believe that the instrumentals are the worst produced in the world, okay? But my god, it's the same thing over and over again. There is nothing unique, something original, just trying to experiment with something. And this is what it showcases, that it's more of like a business model rather than something that they're taking seriously, that comes of like an artistic passion. So yeah, I don't really want to spend any more time talking about these clowns. We all know they're clowns. Anyone with a bit of human decency knows that those two people are garbage, they're pieces of shit, and there is just so much shit going on in the US right now that is simply just a waste of time talking about two white conservative rappers. Like, shit's going down, their audience are gonna eat up everything they're gonna say. Let's just move on. And finally we have the number one spot. What can top down Tom MacDonald and Adam Calhoun? Well, the answer is not something that far off in terms of ideologies and talking points, but yeah, at number one we have Never Enough by Kid Rock. Now, I could actually pick many songs out of the new Kid Rock album because my god, was this such an awful record, but there was one track that actually stood out. It's not like some of the other picks over here where I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna put one of them. No, this one actually stood out. Never Enough possibly has the worst auto-tune I've heard out of every song ever. Like, it's a bit of a special case of like a bad auto-tune. I don't really believe I've heard anything like this before. And here's the thing, Kid Rock actually goes into this more country rock approach with his sound. He has a bit of a rapping here and there, but it's mostly an album that would appeal to rednecks with Punisher avatars on their tractors. Like, it plays a bit to that stereotype, okay? My question is, who is this track appealing to? Because let me tell you something, rednecks don't like autotune, and this one is basically a track that is your standard sort of country rock song, and then you have those vocals that just stand out so heavily. I'm like, who is this appealing to? I believe that this track does such a poor job even trying to appeal to the audience it's trying to appeal to. I cannot believe that this is a real song. I don't believe I've heard of any other track that has such a bewildering autotune. This is a very special case of a song, and it deserves the number one spot for just being way too funny and way out of pocket. And that's my list for my top 10 worst songs out of the previous year. What would you consider your worst picks out of 2022? Let me know down in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.